Ladies and gentlemen, dear esteemed guests, thank you very much for coming to this celebration. I'm very happy to be here with you, and we have on many occasions celebrated the 15th anniversary of Poland joining the EU, but this meeting is also very special for me. On May 1st, 2004, Poland joined the project of United Europe of Free Nations for good, or should I say, returned to it. We were always part of Europe and important part of the continent. What was taken away from us in the 19th and 20th century with annexation, war, genocide, occupation, communism, began to be restored 30 years ago and 15 years ago in particular. After these 15 years, we have good reason to be proud, because we have already become the European champion of economic growth. Our economy is catching up with countries that were in the Union for many years before us and who did not experience the years of communism. Lately, we have been growing around 5% every year. Just a decade ago, nobody would think that we would be catching up in terms of GDP per capita with the countries like Portugal, and we would be so close to GDP per capita of Italy and Spain, of course in purchasing power parity terms. Our entrepreneurs, many of them are with me today in Brussels, are doing very well on the European market. They compete on par with European companies. They still face obstacles. There is still no real single market, and in particular I'm emphasizing the freedom to provide services as unfinished business in the context of the European legislation. But this is why we have opened today Business and Science Poland, and this is why we try to be as productive and influential as possible to provide a level playing field, in particular in the area of services, which is so important for the competitiveness of the whole of the European Union. All these successes would not be possible if we stopped 15 years ago. Becoming a member of the European Union was only a beginning. We often face the fact that Polish perspective, and speaking more broadly, the Central European perspective is still not being understood in Brussels nor in Western Europe. And this is a natural fact. Countries that were lucky enough not to suffer destruction during the Second World War and not to suffer under communism for half a century have it very difficult to comprehend this perspective. But our success story in the last decade and a half is a game changer. It brings the continent together, and as we are closer, we can understand each other better too. All citizens of the United Europe deserve the same opportunities. Europe based on solidarity is way better than a two-speed or multi-speed Europe. 2 weeks ago in Warsaw, we signed a very important document. It was a declaration of reunification of Europe. 13 countries then that joined the European Union over the last 15 years, 10 of them in 15 years ago, then Romania and Bulgaria 2007 and Croatia in 2013, are standing together with a vision that is necessary for our continent to strive in the coming decades. Our goal is to create a strong European Union made up of strong member states and supported by effective and efficient European institutions. We must complete the process of creating single market in all its dimensions and in accordance with other policies. Let's think about 4 freedoms from the Treaty of Rome: freedom to provide services, goods, capital, and migrant workers. the migrant workers, goods and capital are pretty much complete, but we still believe that we have to do lots of endeavors to complete the single European market from the point of view of freedom to provide services. Only a strong and well-functioning common market can lead to a competitive European Union. This is why in February, 17 countries from Central and Eastern Europe, but also Scandinavian countries and Ireland and Portugal and many others, signed a declaration related to single European market, related to protectionism and fighting protectionism. And Poland was one of those 17 countries too, which is again indicating how important is the possibility is building different alliances within the European Union to promote innovativeness, promote single European market, to fight protectionism, to promote innovation, and in all the three major declarations of the last couple of months, Poland was instrumental in creating them. If the EU is to compete with the US and China or India, a real single market free of all protectionism, inside in particular, is a must. Its development requires foresight, ambition, and fair competition based on clear, balanced, harmonious, and transparent rules and political commitment. The single market should remain an integral, indivisible, and open space in which all member states are treated equally. But we should also think of the future, not just of the EU 27 or hopefully EU 28, but of a bigger community, the one that would finally unify all of our continent. I mean here the integration of Western Balkan countries, which is crucial also in the context of the migration and refugees crisis. External borders of Europe have to be well protected. And also I think about Eastern Partnership, which was very stabilizing and which was a very stabilizing and important instrument over the previous decade, and we should now reflect on this initiative and summarize the progress that has been made and to prepare ambitious plans for the next decade. At the same time, we must protect our citizens. Internal and external EU security should be strengthened. The key to the European Union's success is its proximity to its citizens. So citizens must feel that the EU is actually working. So far, the greatest success of the EU was fighting inequalities within the member states and between different member states. This is why the cohesion policy and common agriculture policy were so important and are still very important. There are new challenges ahead of us, like climate change, or industries of the future, or migration, or innovation, but these should not be promoted at the expense of the policies that have been bringing us together so far. That is why we need an ambitious budget, and Poland will support that in the next multi-annual financial framework, so that EU citizens still see that EU protects them and cares for them. We know how to ensure it through better tax collection, fighting VAT fraud, filling the VAT and corporate income tax gap on the EU level. You might have heard of those figures quoted quite frequently recently by many think tanks. The European Union as a whole, or the budgets of the member states of the European Union, lose every year around 150 billion euro from VAT gap, VAT fraud, and another 150 billion euro from tax abuse, in particular in the area of corporate income tax, like tax havens and so on. And as it happens, it is exactly the same figure of the annual budget of the European Union, 150 billion euros. So we speak here about a real elephant in the room, which or two elephants, as I said, corporate income tax and VAT gap. Two elephants which have to really be addressed. I was supposed to talk about this, to speak about this this morning in Bruegel think tank, but I was unable for reasons which the ambassador stated. But I hope we will be able to share some of our experience, because we were just 3 years ago second from the bottom, or almost the worst in terms of the VAT gap and corporate income tax gap. And today we are one of the best in terms of tax collection, which is clearly indicating that we were implementing appropriate tools, IT tools, big data, data analytics in particular, to fight tax fraud, VAT fraud, and to have a comprehensive and successful tax gathering system. I'm mentioning about this because it's instrumental in the context of new sources of income for the whole of the European Union, and also for all the member states. And on top of VAT and corporate income tax, Poland also supports our own sources or additional contribution to the EU budget, also including new initiatives which were mentioned, which are quite frequently mentioned recently by President Macron, Chancellor Merkel, like digital tax, which is another form of fighting tax havens, which are actually depriving us of of money which should be part of the budget of the European Union and member states. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the last three decades Poland has accomplished three important moves. We overthrew communism, we joined NATO, and we joined the European Union. In the decades to come, we intend to continue what we are good at, develop and grow, not just as a country, but as part of Europe, and help others to grow with us together. Thank you very much for your attention and for being here this afternoon with us. Thank you.